Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today for this program preview for the Master of Science in Innovation and Venture Development. MSIVD is a brand new master's program starting at ASU this fall 2020 through a partnership between the Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering, the W.P. Carey School of Business, and the Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts. My name is Jackie Collins. I'm the graduate coordinator for the MSIVD program. So I'm here to answer any questions that you have throughout the admissions process, and I'll also serve as an academic advisor to students admitted to the program in the fall. I want to get started today by going over a brief agenda of what we're going to be talking about. So in just a few minutes, I will introduce you to Cheryl Heller and Philip Horton, and they will have some information for you about the MSIVD program, as well as just some exciting information about ASU in general. I will take a few minutes to talk to you about admission requirements for the program and tuition and financial aid information. And then towards the end, we expect to have a few minutes for a Q&A. So at any point throughout the webinar, if you do have any questions about anything that we're discussing today, please do leave them in the Q&A portion of the Zoom webinar screen, and we will get to all of those for you at the end. So Cheryl Heller is the program director for MSIVD. She is also the director of design integration at ASU and professor of practice in innovation design. Her position is a position through all three schools for the MSIVD program, the W.P. Carey School of Business, Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering, and the Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts. And Philip Horton is the associate director for external relations here at the design school. He's also a clinical assistant professor of architecture and senior sustainability scientist. So Cheryl, I will turn things over to you now.
Thank you, Jackie, and welcome everyone. We have been doing information sessions just about once a week for the last several weeks. So they are all available through links. But we're particularly excited because this is the first one that we're doing with a particular community in mind. And it's a very special community. And I want to introduce someone who has helped us put this together. For the next slide, Jackie. Marlon Martinez is well known to me because she's actually a graduate of another grad program that I chaired, and she was an extraordinary student there and has continued to do remarkable things back home in San Juan. And I got to see Marlon again and meet the community in January when I was there. So I'm really delighted to introduce her to those of you who don't know her yet. Marlon?
Hey, hi, nice to meet you all. I'm Marlon Martinez. I'm located here in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And I had the great experience to meet Cheryl, as she said, in the program that she developed before. And if it wasn't for that experience that I had, I think I wouldn't have the tools to come back to Puerto Rico in a time where we had experienced hurricanes and earthquake and pandemic. So all the tools that I learned and acquired in the program that she created really prepared me to do what I'm doing right now. I work at the Universidad del Sagrado Corazón here in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I work in a program where we are developing a cultural district in the area. It's a program where there are a lot of people that work in the art industries and creative industries, and we are helping them develop and grow their businesses with the idea that if they grow, the benefits will also reach people that live and work here in the area. So thank you, Cheryl, for hosting this for the community here in Puerto Rico.
Thank you, Marlon. Next slide, Jackie. We're particularly excited about this program because it's a new kind of education that prepares people to lead change. And it's a partnership between three schools and a very integrated curriculum that's been developed. So in one program, we say three schools, one integrated program, 1 year. Students will be exposed to learning from engineering, business, and design, which are the most important components of any successful venture. The things that make the program unique are that we welcome any undergraduate degree. If you are a veterinarian or a rocket scientist, you are welcome to apply to the program. And in fact, one of the great strengths that we are anticipating and we're seeing already is the fact that students are coming from so many backgrounds and kinds of experience. The program is experience-based, so you will launch a venture while you're in school. I always think about some programs are time out of life in that you take a year off and go get a degree, but we like to think about this as a time to start your life when you come to school. You will leave with the skills of the future, and they are relevant wherever you want to work. Navigating uncertainty, communication, collaboration, the things that more and more are in the news as the defining skills to prepare people to lead change and to successfully work. And we've spent the last at least 12 months developing a really remarkable ecosystem of leaders from multiple industries and social endeavors. We have faculty from all three schools, many of whom have launched their own businesses. And so it's a really remarkable network to enter. And part of the benefit for students is that you will develop relationships with a lot of potential employers and funders and people who will, without question, become colleagues and friends for life when you begin. Next slide, Jackie. We have talked a lot in prior webinars about the fact that the program is based on a series of studios that track the venture development process. But I thought this time it might be interesting, if you go to the next slide, Jackie, to look at how we got there. And I don't anticipate anybody can read this, but we will send a film out and make the slides available. But the way that these studios came to be is by identifying the milestones that are universal in the venture development process. And regardless of the venture that people come here and want to launch, these are the steps that actually indicate mastery of different phases of the process. So we think the way that it's been developed is really interesting and what makes it student-centric regardless of what they want to do. We can go to the next slide, Jackie. One of the things we're really excited about, because President Crow, the president of ASU, has let people know that we'll be on campus next fall. We don't know whether that will be with some sort of social distancing, but we are planning to launch the program in person. And we have extraordinary dedicated space in a new innovation center right in Tempe. That is, you can go to the next slide, Jackie. It's developed to be open. Teams will have movable walls and can form their own space, but the entire design is meant to foster collaboration and innovation and team building. And the next slide is just the architect's drawing of another part of it. So everything about the space is meant to support teams being creative and having the space and the assets they need to develop a venture. We can go on, Jackie. What's really exciting to me, because until we started meeting the applicants, the program is sort of abstract, but we have begun to interview the applicants from the first deadline and are really excited to see the diversity of their background, from education, electrical engineering. We have English majors, business, global politics, hospitality, and we're tremendously excited about the different perspectives that will be in the same cohort and the richness of thinking that will take place. Thanks, Jackie. We are doing this program with the support of a funder, and we had a meeting with him not long ago because obviously we wanted to touch base because we started this long before COVID was a reality. And he asked us what our measure of success was going to be. And I think it's important for students to know this, that our only measure of success is how well the students do. And so this cohort is going to have all of the faculty and all of our mentors and advisors focused on how to help them become significant leaders and how to help them become the people who are going to usher in a different way of living that's going to be viable in the future. And I think that's a remarkable asset. We can go forward, Jackie. And I'm going to turn it over to Phil.
Thank you all for joining us today. I got really excited about the opportunity to participate in this particular webinar because I have had an opportunity to kind of look in on this inaugural admissions process because of my administrative role. I was excited to see that there are a number of applicants and admits from Puerto Rico. The architecture program from which I come from, we have a great group of alums who've all come from Puerto Rico, many of whom are now practicing architects in Phoenix. For the last couple of years, we've been taking students to San Juan, to Ponce, to Mayahuez for a global engagement studio and participating with students from UPR and from Arc Poly. So I feel like any opportunity to expand the connections between Phoenix and Puerto Rico is a great and exciting opportunity that I hope we'll see more of as this program grows and matures. But talking about ASU, so many of you probably are somewhat familiar with ASU. It's certainly hard today not to be. ASU is the #1 university in the US for innovation. It has been for now 5 years running, basically since the invention of that metric. And so it's an exciting place to be where looking for innovative solutions to wicked problems is really at the core of everything that we do as an institution. ASU is also in the top 1% of the most prestigious universities, top 10 in patents, and there's a whole infrastructure which we could talk more about, focused on tech transfer, intellectual property, patent support that the university really fosters. It's a #1 choice for international students, has excellent employer relations, is #2 in the world, was #5 in terms of employee placement from Wall Street Journal. I could talk endlessly about all of the kind of growing excitement around ASU. But let's jump into the next slide. So relative to support for entrepreneurship, innovation, launching new ventures, part of the metropolitan campuses of ASU, and ASU I should say is set within Phoenix, Arizona. It's the 5th largest city in the US. It's one of the fastest growing cities in the US. It's a young city. Lots of exciting opportunities in terms of being able to project a future in a metropolitan area like Phoenix. And ASU is really the only major university in the city of Phoenix, which is different than a lot of cities where you have multiple universities that each have a footprint. So ASU actually has campuses throughout the valley and very close to the Tempe or main campus, where the MSIVD program will be housed within the Novus Innovation Corridor, is a campus space in Scottsdale called SkySong, which is the home for entrepreneurship and innovation. It's also the home for tech transfer, for patent support. And it's a space that one of the staff persons working within the MSIVD program will be directly connected with Jimmy Choi's team, the E&I team in SkySong, to help you in advancing your entrepreneurial mindset, helping you connect and collaborate with other like-minded individuals, and most importantly, helping to launch ideas into real business ventures in the future. Next slide. So as the 5th most populous city in the US, you might think that it's sort of an urban space that maybe doesn't afford a lot of opportunities to get outside and enjoy nature. If you haven't been to the Sonoran Desert, it's the greenest desert in the world, the most biodiverse desert in the world. Phoenix is set within the Sonoran Desert in the valley around the Rio Salado, the Salt River. And you have mountains throughout the valley, the South Mountain to the south. You have Camelback Mountain and the Phoenix Mountains more central or to the north. Lots of hiking opportunities, lots of great amenities being in a large city. And so you really get an amazing opportunity to not only learn and hopefully launch a venture, but to really think about how you might project your life into whether short-term or long-term, into a great place like Phoenix. Next slide.
Thanks so much, Phil. Thank you to Cheryl and Marlon as well for sharing your thoughts with us today. So I want to take just a few minutes to talk with you about the application requirements for the MSIVD program. As Cheryl mentioned earlier, you can apply to this program with a bachelor's degree in any undergraduate discipline. You will need to submit your transcripts when you apply. If you have unofficial transcripts, you can submit those through ASU's online application. If you're an international student, you may need to meet the English proficiency requirement. One thing to keep in mind right now, ASU is currently accepting the Duolingo English test for English proficiency. So if you are looking for a way to meet that requirement and you're looking for a test that you can take from home right now, that is a great option to look into. The only other things that you need for the initial online application are an up-to-date copy of your resume and a letter of intent. The letter of intent is really your opportunity to introduce yourself to the MSIVD faculty, to talk about your experiences and your skills that you feel make you a strong candidate, and about what brought you to the MSIVD program and what you hope to accomplish. It should be no more than 3 pages, double spaced, but it is really just a kind of first glimpse that our faculty will get into you and what you would bring to the program. So our next application deadline for fall 2020 is coming up on June 30th. The link at the bottom of this slide here is the link to our website. There you will be able to find a link to start your application if you would like to apply. And then I also just wanted to talk briefly about the tuition and fee structure for the program. So this slide will give you a rough idea of what the total cost will be over the course of the program. It is a 1-year, 30 credit hour program. You would be taking 12 credit hours in fall, 12 credit hours in spring, and then finishing out the program in summer 2021 with a final studio that is 6 credit hours. So these different graphics on the screen here will outline for you what the cost will be based on your residency classification, whether you're an Arizona resident, a non-resident, or an international student. There is a program fee associated with the MSIVD program. It's $4,000 per semester, and that is the same across the board regardless of residency status. So really the big difference in cost is going to be the ASU-based tuition based on your residency classification. We do also like to make sure that prospective students are aware this is a STEM designated program. So if you are looking for funding and scholarship opportunities, there are scholarship programs that exist specifically for students in STEM programs. So that's a great place to start if you are looking for outside funding opportunities to help with the cost of the program. So we have some time now for questions. If you do have any questions about anything that we've covered, like I said, please put them in the Q&A portion of the webinar here. I believe I did see at least one question come in during the presentation. So we have someone asking how many students have already been admitted, how many do you expect to accept, and how will venture groups and size be decided? Cheryl, did you want to weigh in on that one? Oh, I think you're muted, Cheryl.
Sorry. Three questions there. We have admitted about 24 students so far. We have plenty of space. We're thinking we would love to have a class of 30 or 40 students, so there's no limit to how many, but we're thinking about how the cohort fits together and making sure that we have a balanced and diverse cohort. In terms of the last question is, how will venture groups and size be decided? That's been a topic of much conversation, and it is going to be decided by the teams. In other words, it will be organic. We will not be assigning teams. We're going to be helping people identify issues and pain points that they want to work on. And if students get together as a team of 2 or as a team of 5, we will work with them and support whatever they want. So we're going to be quite flexible.
I actually see another question here that was asked earlier. The studio design space is part of the Novus Innovation Corridor. Yes, it is. Where on campus will that be? Oh, and I see that you had answered, Cheryl. It is on, for anybody who can't see, it's on University and Rural in Tempe, on the Tempe campus.
So for anyone who's maybe not familiar, the Novus Innovation Corridor is an exciting, very large project that the university and the city of Tempe are partnering around. It's a mixed-use development. There will be housing within the Innovation Corridor, retail, restaurants, businesses, and some academic space, all kind of shared within it. It is very close to all of the sports facilities for ASU, and immediately adjacent to campus, this building will be. But one of the exciting things is that many of these businesses that are moving into the Innovation Corridor are specifically interested in partnering with the university on applied research, on looking into the university for growing their businesses through hiring of graduates. So there should be a lot of interesting opportunities, professional networking and other engagement that comes with being located in this exciting new facility. So it's a great building that you're going to be in, but it's also a great district that's a kind of growth district that you'll be grounded in.
Thank you, Phil. So we have a few more minutes for questions if you do want to put any of those in the Q&A box. In the meantime, one thing that I see and then I get asked a lot that Cheryl, maybe you could speak to, is how viable this program is for someone who maybe works either part-time or full-time. Since it is a full-time program over the course of 1 year, is that something that you can touch on?
Of course I can, Jackie. It is a full-time program. Classes are 2 days from noon through most of the afternoon. And realistically, we find most people need to keep working. And so that is absolutely possible. We recommend that the student have flexible hours, because not only will you need to be in class, but you'll need time to meet with your team outside of class. But work during the program is absolutely viable. And when we say it's a full-time program, what we mean in part is that there's no way to take it part-time. So because it's a cohort-based program and everyone goes through the studios in succession, it's not possible to dip in and out and say, I want Studio 3 this semester. And so you need to stick with the team and the cohort that you start with and finish it that way.
Thank you. And I know this is something that you have covered in past webinars as well, but could you also speak about what you envision the types of jobs will be that graduates from this program will have?
Yes, I can. And in one of the earlier presentations, we have a slide that speaks to that directly. So maybe Jackie, you'd be willing to post that slide afterwards.
Absolutely.
the kinds of roles that people with transdisciplinary degrees tend to be in innovation roles. They tend to be the people within a company who are asked to solve cross-disciplinary challenges and lead the creation of new things. And depending on the industry, it can be a head of innovation, it can be in the new product department. Obviously, for people who launch their own ventures, you could be founders, CEO. But there is data on the fact that if you do want to work in another organization, what is very important to employers now is that people not come out of traditional academic silos where they have a narrow expertise but don't know how that expertise fits into the rest of the real world. One of our advisors is a wonderful man named Carl Wiedenberg from IBM, and he talks a lot about the reality. You know, IBM is engineering, business, and design, and they've just used the design to transform their culture. But in an environment like that, you need people who are conversant with the other two practices. So you need to understand, not necessarily in detail what a computer engineer does, but you need to understand how to work with them. And those are the people who are sought after and who do well in any organization.
Thank you. We do have another question now from one of our attendees. Will grades be given just like any other program, or is success the real measure? How is this defined?
Grades are given, but I would say that they're given as a way to communicate with students. So in a graduate program, it's not as important what your GPA is. I mean, it may be if you're on scholarship and you need to uphold that, but we look at grades as a way to communicate progress for the student. And when the graduates are out in the world, nobody cares what grade they got. But what we will look at and what they will look at is, what am I doing with my life? What do I have to show for this education? What can I anticipate in my future? And so those are the real measures. And I would say grades are a tool along the way.
Thank you. So
Marlon, do you, oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Just as we have a couple of minutes, Marlon, I was going to ask whether you wanted to tell us anything about the wonderful community in Puerto Rico, or whether you have any questions about the program.
Yes, so one of the things that excite me about this program is just as you mentioned before, how transdisciplinary it is. And that's actually in the community that I work with, that's something that we see is effective in every way. In my team here in Puerto Rico, there's an architect, there's a person who studies economy, there's a person whose expertise is technology. So we have a good, a group of experts in different areas, and that's actually, while we are trying to build a cultural district, and if you see a district, right, like a small town, basically what it is, it has so many different aspects that are important into building a high quality of life for people that are involved in. And I think it's very important that we all, not necessarily, as you said, are experts in each of every role or sector, but we know how to talk to each other. So very important what you guys are bringing into this program. And questions that I have. So one main question will be, I'm very interested, especially because I'm working in the development of a district, how big of a project can I achieve later on? right? A district is complex, a country is complex, a global business is complex. How much of the complexity can I take later on?
So you will remember this from our past lives together, right? But the critical aspect of creating anything, launching anything, is that you need to begin with something concrete enough to act upon. And so I think, once again, we would help you define a venture that could ultimately scale, but that also, in developing it, gives you the embodied knowledge and gives you the skills to go back and apply them at a different level, right? Because if you start out with something too broad and complex, you don't quite know where to start. And I think a big part of the benefit of this program is that notion of where do you start? You know, we call it the fuzzy front end. You know, when a problem can't be analyzed, you know, when data won't give you an answer, how do you begin to think about where to intervene and how to intervene and how to build something that will work? But that's I think that's one of the most important things that will come out of this program.
Great.
Marlon, thank you so much for being a part of this and for being you.
Thanks to you for inviting us.
This is really great, Marlon. I hope to have an opportunity to meet you in person sometime in the near future. And as I mentioned, we'll have some students, probably led by an architect here, an alum, Karine Santiago, probably coming to San Juan either at the end of the fall or beginning of the spring. And
we'll love to meet them.
Yeah, I would love to connect you. So hopefully I'll reach out with more details as that starts to come into focus.
Yes, please.
All right, well, thank you all so much for being here and taking part in the webinar today. I do want to just give you all my contact information. Please, if you have any questions about the program or the application process, feel free to contact me. I will follow up with everybody who registered after the webinar today and give you all a link to a recording, as well as some of the other information that we discussed earlier in the webinar as well. Thank you to Cheryl and Phil and to Marlon for all being here. And thank you to everyone who attended as well.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.